the most recent study that you and your colleagues have worked on. Can you give me an overview?
This is one of a series of studies that we've done trying to understand the role of fathers in their children's language development. We know a lot about how moms influence kids' development, mainly because most of the research that we know so far has been done with moms. But I wanted to see if fathers' contribution to language development is different, is the same as moms. So we did this study, the one that you're referring to, where we looked at the degree of playfulness, which we measure as how fun are dads having with the children. And it was really a fun project to do because play is always fun. But doing those play interactions, what we learned is that fathers are using a lot of language. So it has a nice impact on the kids' development of their own language skills.
Talk to me a little bit about your sample size, how many kids you study, how many dad and child pairs.
For this study, so studies like this that require a lot of intense observational data, I have to go to people's homes and I have to videotape, much like you're doing me, videotape father and children playing together. It takes a long time to collect this data, to code the data. So the samples tend to be relatively smaller compared to other studies. So for this study, we looked at a sample of 74, I believe, dyads, couples, fathers and children. They were all low income of African American and Latino ethnicity. And so what I was really interested in looking is to see the ways in which low-income dads interact with the kids in ways that promote language. So even though they don't have a lot of resources, they're still able to promote the development of language.
Can you tell me what you saw?
What we saw is fathers playing quite creatively with their children. They were engaged, so we have a bag of toys that we give to parents and to children, and we say, pretend we're not here, and then just play, and we're going to videotape you. So we do this for 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then 10 minutes of just play without toys. And so the part for this study, we coded from the play interaction with toys. And then we just watch them play. How often does a dad say, look, there's a stove, let's cook today? Or look, pizza, do you want pizza? Yum, yum, yum. So things like this. So during those linguistic interactions, dads are using language, they're using words, the kid is really involved, and so they go back and forth, and that's how you pick up words.
Now, you said there's a lot of data on how moms are influencing their children's language, but not so much with dads. Is this a first of its kind of study?
These are, I would say, relatively infrequent that we have observational data on fathers and children for many reasons, especially low-income families. So for low-income families, the research generally wants to capture the adversity of bringing up children when you're poor. But I wanted to look at this variability. There are lots of dads and moms too, low-income moms, who engage with the children in positive ways. But because dads have not always been part of the parenting research, it's very unusual to have father-child interactions alongside mother-child interactions. So I would say that the data are relatively infrequent. There are a few, probably my lab is one of the few ones that does father-child interactions. There's a couple, one maybe in New York, but not a lot.
Tell me what you found.
Well, we found that it's a really nice relationship between how fathers engage with the children in this play and how kids learn language. And we found that fathers who are engaged with the kids in these creative, playful ways, children pick up more vocabulary, more words, and they're able to engage with their fathers linguistically a little better.
You say they pick up more words. Is it the fathers are using more words, or is it the type of play, or is it too hard to tell what the mechanism is?
It's hard to tell, but generally is the way the words the fathers are using, that role modeling, so kids might repeat the same word, or dad is saying, look, pass me the pizza cutter. And so there's a new word. Maybe child didn't know what a pizza cutter was, but now he's pointing at it. He says, yeah, pizza cutter, give it to me. So that's how, the child is exposed to new words, they repeat, and doing this really playful and fun way to interact with their dads.
What does this suggest?
The suggestion is really simple, in my view. It's really encourage dads, especially low-income dads, just to play with the kids. I mean, it's not that hard. We want to give fathers the idea or want to validate their role as parents and say, every time you play with your child, every time you take him to go play ball or to engage with him at home, you're really helping promote the child's language skills. You're not just developing this relationship with the child, which is important, but you're also really helping language skills. And as we know, especially low-income kids start school with the vocabulary a little delay from other kids. So this is important that fathers are doing to promote language development. So I say, dads, play.
Do dads and moms play in different ways, and does that relate to the language development?
Fathers and mothers, so we found in our study that fathers and mothers can be just as playful, just as creative. However, fathers' use of language during the interaction is a little different from moms. So it turns out the father's language skills during the interaction is more related to kids' language skills than moms. So moms are maybe more, the play is also creative, but they're not using as many words and they're not using as much language as dads. So it's more nurturing, helping the child do the work, but not being as engaged linguistically as the dad. And we find this in other studies too, where we find that the dad is actually talking to children as he would talk to adults. And we used to think in the olden days that was so insensitive. Fathers are not adjusting their speech to the child. But it turns out that that's actually good for a child. So in a way, children or fathers are more linguistically challenging for kids than moms.
Some takeaways for parents. What should they be doing?
My studies and other people have found the same thing. It's not that mothers, obviously mothers help. Every adult who talks to the child helps. Fathers don't have the monopoly on always on teaching language. But what he suggests is that the dad should be just as engaged as mom, because his language skills, the way he uses language with children is a little differently and adds to that vocabulary of kids. So fathers have a place in language development. That's not the same thing as moms. So moms are talking to the kids, that's great. They're not a substitute for dads. Dads should do their own. So it's not that dad is like, I'm tired, I'm watching television. No, you helping the child develop specific skills that he may not if you don't engage with the child in that way.
Are there types of play that dads should look to do?
Yes. So the play that we have looked at is this idea of creative, playful play. And we only looked at this type of play because that's more normative between parents and kids. When you have a 24 months or an 18 months old, the type of play that is natural is really pretend play. Let's pretend, or bring out toys and we'll pretend you're a firefighter or I'm a doctor. So that creative space is really important to engage and to have fun. They're really important for a child to really have fun with his dad. And so doing that interaction, that's when you pick up some language skills.
Next steps for your colleagues.
I want to look at more variability of what other contexts fathers and children can interact that can also provide the opportunity for kids to learn words. I'm also looking at social emotional regulation. Are these interactions important for kids to learn to regulate their behavior, for dad to say, hey, that hurt, stop? And we have some data, really nice data with rough and tumble play. My colleagues in Australia have found that rough and tumble play is a really important, when done well, that teaches children to regulate their behavior. So throwing pillows around, wrestling, really nice. I mean, that's a nice space for dads. Moms do it too. I wrestle, but not as much as dads. Dads and kids are that space. At home, I used to say, wrestling time, go to the basement. My kids and my husband, I'm not that interested in it. I do other things, and I'm happy to wrestle, but it's not my thing. So I think if that's, what fathers and kids engage, is really, really fun. But it's also really important for kids' emotional and self-regulation.
People are coming home from work, they're tired. Does it mean a lot of time with your child, or could just even a few minutes make a difference?
It doesn't, so I don't have data on how long you should do, but it doesn't have to be a long time for a long period of time. It really has to be we videotape interactions for about 10, 15 minutes, and we see a lot of stuff going on in those 10, 15 minutes. So it doesn't have to be a long time, but it has to be some time, some space where fathers and children are spending this time together. And it's a very intimate moment. It's fun, it's enjoyable. I get to know you, you get to know me, and I think this spills over into other areas of development that we haven't looked. Like if a child wants to meet his dad's approval, he's more likely to be compliant when dad says, okay, enough of this, we're going to go to bed. But if you're not into this dad thing, it's like, no, you're not going to listen. So it really does set the stage for other aspects of of that relationship with dad.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you would want our viewers to know?
I wanted just to emphasize that really that we have not done as a society enough to promote the importance of fathers' involvement in a kid's life, especially poor dads. I feel like they get a bad rap. When fathers can be involved, they can play with the children, they can love them just as much, and it really is important for the child and specifically for the language skills that we care about, with which kids cannot do so well at school, without which.
If you had a message for the policymakers from your research, what would that be?
What I would say is money matters. Fathers should contribute to the children by paying and supporting them economically, but it's more than money. It also is a time the fathers spend with the children that's really important. So I would promote both. I would encourage, obviously, fathers to take economic responsibility for the children, but I will also encourage them to spend time playing, kicking the ball, talking, going out to dinner, anything that requires that really intimate interaction that kids just crave, and that really is the formation for these relationships that are long-lasting.
Can you tell me where you got your undergraduate degree, master's degree, and advanced degrees?
My undergraduate degree I did at the University of Toronto, in Toronto, Canada, where I grew up. I also did my master's degree there, and then I did my PhD at the University of Denver.
What was your PhD?
My PhD was in educational and developmental psychology.